Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Dmitry Lipkin, Vice President of Corporate Communications at Aviatrix, and thank you for joining Episode 4, Season 1 of Customer Flight Plans, The Journey to Multi-Cloud, with our host and CEO, Steve Mullaney. We'd like to also welcome our special guest, Jeff Duke, Senior Network Engineer at Republic Airways. And during the show, the audience will be on mute. So if you have any questions, and we encourage them, please type them into the Q&A section, and we'll respond to them accordingly during the broadcast. Also, we will have a couple of survey questions regarding the show, and we welcome your feedback. Thank you again. Without further ado, I'd like to hand this over to Steve. Steve, please take it away and enjoy the show, everyone.
Great, thanks, Dimitri. Hey, good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good morning, Steve. Good. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks for joining us today on our latest edition of Customer Flight Plans. And we call it that not just because of Republic Airlines. We actually call it that. Aviatrix is a female pilot, and so everything we do is aviation. So it's not catered just to Republic Airlines, but it fits. And so, Jeff, what we like to do, and I think you got a real interesting story and an interesting guy is, first we'll just kind of go through, who is Republic Airlines for people that don't know, and a little bit about that and your role as a senior network engineer and what your responsibility for. Kind of go through a little bit of the journey that you've had to the cloud. I think it's always interesting for customers to hear other people's journeys. I know I find it super interesting. When did you guys start? Why? How does it proceeded over the last few years? And then, talk a little bit about Aviatrix. How do you use this? What problems do we solve for you? And then kind of directionally, where are some of the things that you're going with respect to cloud? So, what's your journey over the last few years, but more importantly, where are you going to go over the next few years? And so we'll try to keep this quick and fast moving in 30 minutes and get to some real meat. So let's get started.
So first off, I want to thank you for having me on the show. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. If you remember the Man Cow Morning Madness days. Love your show. Yeah, my name's Jeff Duke. I'm a senior network engineer with Republic Airways. I've been a network engineer for about 25 years. I've seen a lot in the industry. Republic Airways is headquartered in Indianapolis, Indiana. We're a regional airline. We fly for United, Delta, and American. Really, our cloud journey started in 2018 with new leadership. Nirav Shah, our new vice president of IT at the time, really set the direction and provided the strength that you need to, begin a cloud journey, right? And our cloud journey probably started really with Microsoft, Azure, obviously moving to O365, running Exchange in the cloud, SharePoint, and all the other Microsoft apps that we did, SaaS-based apps in the cloud in early 2018. We did have some apps in AWS at the time. We still have several apps in AWS that were on the old networking infrastructure using AT&T NetBond. We run an RLife application that runs our crew dispatches, or crew scheduling for flight attendants and pilots in the field in AWS. But ultimately, Nirav provided the direction to start building a private cloud, architecture in the public cloud, whether it was Microsoft or AWS. It became a multi-cloud networking architecture really quickly.
And Jeff, was that with the new leadership? Was it? I'm assuming it was business focused, right? He came in, and was it agility? Was it,
Yeah.
What was the driver? Was it just business agility?
I would say business agility. The elasticity that the cloud provides. Being able to quickly bring up workloads, shut those workloads down, test those workloads. I think there was also an ultimate goal to, think about evacuating data centers. Probably, we have a lot of on-prem networking and security, systems engineering, systems, let's say, that could be moved to the cloud pretty quickly and probably operate just fine.
Okay. And what is your plan to evacuate the data centers, and has COVID accelerated that?
Oh yeah, COVID, I would say, has accelerated it. The shutdown put everybody in a remote situation. Everybody's working remote from home. So, having access to the cloud, from just basic internet was a plus, right?
Right.
Accessing our applications or accessing our email or accessing whatever business, business application that we need, either through VPN or remote access points that we provisioned that pretty much everyone that works remote home. That takes, it provides, strategic direction for, well, do we really need all of this compute in our data centers, right?
Yeah.
I think evacuating a data center and going to the cloud is probably the natural order of things here now and probably in the near future as well as beyond.
So when you say
we have a backup data center that we are in the process of migrating to the cloud.
Okay. So what for an airlines? I mean, this is not fun and games. This is a real enterprise with, saber mission critical applications and so forth, not something to be taken lightly. So like, what is your plan to evacuate? Is it 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? Like what order of magnitude do you now say we're going to be out of our data centers?
Yeah, I would hate to speak for airline operations because they'll probably have my head for it. But I would say within 1 to 3 years, we're going to have probably a pretty well-defined strategic plan to get our production apps into the cloud. Right now, from a DR perspective, Sabre are one of our most important applications that actually runs the airline from a systems operations control center point of view, and Ramco, which is our maintenance application that handles all of the nuts and bolts of all the planes and keeps track of when repairs are due or when planes need to land at a hangar and they need to be worked on or wrenched on. Those applications have already been tested in the cloud. And from a DR perspective, work in the cloud. So we are in the process of migrating from a DR perspective, those applications to the cloud to run in a DR situation.
And that's where you start, is as using the cloud as a disaster recovery. Is that kind of how you're starting with the mission critical apps? Let's start there and then we'll move. So talk a little bit about your role, as a network engineer, what your life was like too. It's, you've been doing it for 25 years. So, I've been in networking for 35 years. So I know what your life was like, and what it was Cisco and it was CLIs and it was a whole different world. And then 3 years ago, the new CIO or new leadership comes in and says, we're moving to cloud. So walk me through, are you horrified? Are you excited? All of a sudden, like, what is all this cloud? And I'm a network engineer. So walk me through, kind of what your life's been like for the last 3 years and just insights you've had. Cause I'm assuming have a lot of people that are network engineers on the call. What did you go through? What lessons learned for them, et cetera. What can you comment on that?
Yeah, I could first say that, there's definitely a skills gap between on-prem networking and security, as well as, systems, right? There's a huge skills gap that has to be bridged. Was I nervous? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But like I said, I've been in this business for 25 years. I worked on mainframe networks and front-end processors and AS400s. And, that was more of a centralized model. And then we went to a distributed model where we built data centers and thousands of servers and had, a more decentralized architecture with, one app runs on one server and you got 4,000 servers running 4,000 different apps, right?
Right.
Then it went to a more VM virtualized world where now instead of having 4,000 servers, we're going to bring all those servers back and we're going to run them off of 2 real big honking hardware, chassis blade servers, whatever it is, VMware running, and now you're virtualizing hundreds of servers on single pieces of hardware. Well, now that still is true, right? We're still virtualizing, we're still running VMware, we're still trying to get into the clouds, whether it's in AWS, Amazon, Google, or Oracle, or whatever, and running in their virtual worlds. But now what I see from an on-prem networking and security systems point of view is that we are starting to centralize, data centers, right? Data centers there was a huge sprawl for data centers. I mean, you had companies with thousands of data centers. Large Fortune 500s probably have hundreds of data centers, thousands of data centers, different kinds of co-loads and pops all over the world. And so what I see now is that you're going to go from multiple data centers to single data centers, and they're probably going to be in the cloud. They're probably going to be running in Microsoft or AWS or Oracle or Google. And so that skills gap is huge. You got to know each one individually and collectively. If you're going to run a multi-cloud networking architecture and bridge the different clouds together, you got to know how to do that. I think it's more difficult to learn every cloud provider's own native constructs individually. And I will say that, Aviatrix, the platform itself, bridged that gap, made it easier for at least my team and the public teams to basically deploy into multiple clouds.
So,
I was talking about the skills gap. And,
yeah.
And how Aviatrix really bridged that gap for us from a networking and security perspective for sure. I didn't know a lot of things about a lot of the cloud providers that I do now because of my Aviatrix training, working with the teams. Like I was saying, I had, the sales team, the systems engineering team, the security teams all together in a conference call within a couple weeks from being introduced to Aviatrix, and then the rest is history. We were off to the races.
Yep.
Really. So.
Yep. So I think the other thing that's interesting is, you mentioned Sabre, which, I remember Sabre from, when American Airlines, and that to me was, I started my career in 1985 in IT, and, computing, enterprise computing was mainframes. That was big iron. That was PC client server was a joke. It was viewed as a toy for sharing printers. IP, are you kidding me? Real men use SNA.
Right.
And,
right.
In mainframes and, cluster controllers, and that's like big iron. And Sabre, you kidding me? I'm going to run Sabre Sabre's probably still run on mainframe. So, does that, that's the epitome of a mission critical application for airlines. Does that ever go in the cloud?
I think it does. I think you're going to see adoption of the cloud more and more and more. And I think that with that adoption, you'll have more security, you'll have more confidence, you'll have better network redundancy into the clouds. You'll have it'll become feasible to run mission critical apps in the cloud. I really, truly believe I think that's where the cloud's going to go. And, why would it be here if it wasn't going to be able to do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to look at these humongous data centers that Google and Amazon and Microsoft are creating, and it's for this purpose. I truly think, what's the difference if I can build redundancy into multiple data centers on-prem, if I can do that in the cloud as well? And the cloud can be stable. I think over the last 3 years, I've seen it grow, and, the confidence level is better, and the assurance that systems are going to be up all the time is better. I think, I think with availability zones and, all of the different DR type functions that they've put into the cloud, I don't see why a mission critical app like Sabre or Ramco can't be in the cloud. I really don't.
How did you, I'm just curious, I don't know the answer to this, but like they always teach lawyers, never ask a question you don't know the answer to, but I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to ask, how did you find Aviatrix?
I found Aviatrix, kind of tripped and fell onto it, really. I was digging around on Amazon trying to figure out how to put firewalls in Amazon's cloud, and working with the security team, because I'm telling you right now, it's not pretty when you have to do it natively, and we were really, again, trying to bridge that gap of our skill level, not really understanding the cloud per se from a networking and security standpoint. And so, digging around, I found an article about Aviatrix and security domains and how you can control your east-west security using Aviatrix. And I literally took my head out of the cube and yelled down to one of my security engineers. I said, hey, you need to look at this Aviatrix. He probably spent 30 minutes on it, turned around and said, we need to get this stuff. We need to look at this. We need to POC it. We need to do something. And I kid you not, 10 minutes later, I got a phone call from Lucidia IT, a local VAR of ours that we work well with together. And Jenny Weigel is her name. She called and said, hey, do you know who Matt King is? And I'm like, yeah, I know Matt King. Well, he works for a company called Aviatrix. I said, you got to be kidding me.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, I want to talk to that guy. I know him already. I said, I want to talk to Matt. I want a meeting. Let's set up something next week. And we literally were eating lunch probably the following week.
Wow. That's great. I've heard a lot of those types of stories. So quick little fun game. Again, I don't know what you're going to say, but I'm sure it'll be fun. When I say the word Aviatrix, what words come to your mind?
Well, I think of flight. I think of a control panel in a big 747. No, but I think of what comes to mind is cloud, and I mean, it immediately solved so many problems of mine that it has a near and dear place in my heart. So it's like I smile when I hear Aviatrix.
Well, it's interesting because some conversations I have, Jeff, when you have, some network engineers will go like this. Because they look and they go, I want it complex. I don't want it simplified. Because that's job security for me, right? Most people, I think the enlightened ones actually look at this and say, this is going to allow me to do so much, because you mentioned it. You don't get to decide what clouds Republic Airlines is in. The business decides. It's not your decision. And you may say, well, I'm only going to be in AWS. Right up until the business says, guess what? Good news. We're in GCP. Because we're going to use analytics, or we've got an Exadata database in Oracle. And guess what? Good news. We're moving it to, of course, OCI. We're not moving it to AWS. Are you kidding me? It runs best in Larry's cloud. Of course it does. And guess what? Now you've got 4 clouds. And then, oh, by the way, you're going to China and you're in Alibaba and IBM. Before you know it, you got 4, 5, 6, 7 different clouds. And everybody says, isn't this wonderful? And oh, by the way, we want it all tomorrow, because the world is not 1994 Cisco horrible operational complex model anymore, where when they ask you 15 years ago, Jeff, you go, no. What? I haven't even finished asking it. Yeah, I know the answer is no. So, okay, well, listen to the rest of it. So usually the answer is no, or what year would you like that in? It is not that world anymore. It is boom. I need it next week. So that's what happens.
Oh yeah, totally. The no answer to all the questions was a commonality. It isn't anymore, right?
No,
it's not. And so
and
I like saying yes. If my boss comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to be in Alibaba tomorrow," sure thing.
Let's do it. That's what we give people. So one other question. Again, I don't know the answer to, and I hope I get the right answer. Are you using Copilot?
Yes.
What do you think of Copilot?
I think it's awesome. It's funny because yesterday I was working with my data automation, analytics, BI, big data teams, and they have communication in Azure EC2 where we've built out their networking, and they didn't know what's talking to what. And I said, well, it's a good thing we got Copilot for that, because I can see what's going on.
Tell the audience what Copilot is from Aviatrix.
Yeah, so Copilot is like it's your network management framework. I look at it like a network management application in the cloud that's going to give you a topology. Think of like HP OpenView, SolarWinds, those kinds of applications where you get a topology map. You get flow data, you get, a real good understanding of in real time what your latencies are in the network, what your utilizations are in the network. And these are between VNets and VPCs and clouds.
This is across all clouds.
Yeah, it's all clouds, multiple clouds, same region, multiple regions. Right. And you basically get an active map, topology dashboard You get a NOC view, like a network operations center view of all your gateways, all of your Aviatrix constructs, all of your connections, whether they're on-prem or in the cloud, between clouds. And, you really get a live view of your network in the cloud, which you don't get natively from any of the cloud providers.
Even in a single cloud, you don't get that.
No, yeah, right.
Yeah. So to me, I mean, I look at that and I think you say it blows me away. Like you can't even get this in one cloud.
No.
You start going to multiple regions with the one cloud. Good luck. And for Copilot to actually give you this visibility, not just in one cloud across multiple regions, but actually across multiple clouds and into on-prem in a single. So you were talking about so do you have any examples of where Copilot has helped you?
Well, I mean, I use it. I mean, it's one of my dashboards in my browser sitting on my computers all the time, right? I always have it up and running.
Yep.
That plus, my controller, UI as well.
So Jeff, I got a little secret for you.
They're gonna integrate.
And this is just for you. Okay. So no, we just came out with 1.4 Copilot. So it just came out yesterday. Our engineers just got to look at it. So there's a feature called Topology Replay. Ask Phil about Topology Replay. So basically what Topology Replay is. So this is how support calls always go everywhere. You'll love this. We have an issue. We got a P1, something happens. Guess what the first question we ask the customer is? What did you do? What do you think the answer is, Jeff?
Nothing. Right.
Yeah, okay, come on. It was just like what Vicky asked you, Jeff. Did you change something with your audio settings?
Of course not.
I didn't touch it. Okay, all right. Guess what? Topology Replay. So we have a real-time view of the entire topology, cross-cloud, all in one screen that you can click on and get all kinds of things. Guess what Topology Replay does? It allows you to look at any 2 periods of time and say, in real time, every minute it's polling it, and it will look at you and say, okay, between 8:01 this morning and 8:03, 75 changes were made in our infrastructure. Holy crap.
That's awesome.
What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's awesome. That's the first thing as network engineers we always ask, what have you done? What have you changed? Did you put that in change management?
No, I didn't do anything. And then when you find out they changed, they go, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I did do that. Yeah.
Or the other thing that will happen with Copilot also is the app, I don't know if you use any of the app intelligence, app IQ, things like that. Because again, what's the first thing that happens? The app team goes and says, the network's broken. And the network team goes, well, how do you know? Well, because it's always the network. It's not the app. So we in networking always have to go, and we're guilty until proven innocence, and have to show the evidentiary data that it's not our fault. So being able to have tools like Copilot that actually will show that, whether it's another great thing, which is we call flight path, which we can actually show this point to that point, actually say, what is it hitting a security controls or any of these things?
Right.
Go try to troubleshoot in a cloud without flight path and Copilot. It takes you months.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. If you go to Amazon or Azure or any of these cloud providers and say, hey, I want to run a packet capture. They're like, packet what? I want to do a flight path. What? I want to actually see what the hell's going on.
Yeah, no, you don't need that.
You need to talk to somebody else about that.
Yeah, look, they like to keep you in the dark. This is a black box. You do not need to know. And guess what? Enterprises, you say, no, I'm exactly that guy who needs to know. Because I get fired. I can't go to my CIO and go, well, I don't really know what happened.
Oh yeah, man. And that fear is real, especially when you migrate to the cloud environments, not knowing and not having access, or maybe even the understanding of knowing what to do, that gives you a red face quick. What I mean? You can't see, or you don't know how to see, or you can't figure something out. You get real nervous real quick. And again, I'll plug you guys again. Aviatrix bridge that gap as well, big time.
Okay. Where are you guys going directionally? So where are you at in the journey? 5% of your workloads in the cloud, 50, And what is the next? So you started 2-3 years ago. What do the next 3 years look like?
Yeah, so for sure, definitely, we're going to be doing DR in the cloud. We are evacuating our secondary data center. All of the compute storage systems are evacuating and going to AWS for now from a DR perspective. And eventually, I see in the future, we're going to be consolidating and downsizing our networking infrastructure in our data centers too. There's really, without big compute, there's really no need for, big networking or big irons in the data center to run, your server environments when they're going to be in the cloud. So I see compute shifting and moving into the cloud in the next year to 3 years. And I see reduction in sizes of data centers. You still are going to need, some networking to get to the cloud. So that's not going to, be eliminated 100%. But you will be able to reduce your footprint. You won't need the huge, data center Nexus Cisco devices, for example.
So that's also another interesting question. Well, did you look at what Cisco had?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Like
Yes, I did.
The first reaction to see, okay.
Oh yeah, that was, that's one of the first things I did before I even knew Aviatrix. I'm thinking, well, where's Cisco fit in this cloud environment? Where can I put, my Cisco routers in the cloud? And they do have the CSR, the cloud services router. And as a natural, I've been, a networking engineer for 20 years. I probably started my career off with Cisco. I'm agnostic. I'm not a Cisco bigot. I mean, I might have been when I was younger, probably, but I'm not anymore. And over the years, I've learned all of the different vendors, Juniper and Foundry and Extreme and Alcatel, whatever. But you think about, well, where do these big companies fit into these cloud providers networking? Why aren't there Cisco routers that I can put in the cloud? Well, they're the CSRs, but they do the same thing. They're not really as agile and easy to configure as a product like Aviatrix. I mean, you're still using IPsec tunnels, GRE tunnels. And it's very expensive, what I read. And it's not the same. It's not the same, really.
Yeah. Well, I like to call it, Jeff, they're cloud naive versus cloud native. And it's
they missed the cloud train, that's for sure.
So it's just one letter difference. You think, what's the difference between naive and native? One letter, the letter T. So close. But it makes all the difference in the world. And to me, it's what I found, which is interesting, is 3 years ago, people started looking at CSRs, and you're lucky you didn't actually put them in, because the only time I ever hear the word Cisco mentioned for the 2 years I've been at Aviatrix is only one time, when they say, help me rip out these horribly complex operational disasters called CSRs. We put them in 3 years ago because it was the only thing we could do. We need to go cloud native. And
I think they only run in AWS. I don't think they even run in Azure.
I don't even know, and I don't even care. It's like DEC wasn't in the conversation when we moved to IP networking.
Right.
Cisco, Arista, Juniper, not even in the conversation. You see the same thing.
I see the complete same thing. It's actually amazing to me that, well, and I think it's a turf war now. You see, and I'll throw this out there, Chuck Robbins, the CEO of Cisco, coming out saying, everybody wants to go back to the office. Well, you know why they're saying that, right? Because they can't sell switches if there's no office, right? So, I mean, it's going to hurt their bottom line when, people stay remote.
Well, you know what, Jeff? Guess what? Republic Airlines is no different. Every single enterprise had a plan to evacuate the data center. It just got pulled in by about 1 to 2 years.
Yes, I agree.
It's over. It is over. The data center, just like the mainframe, you still have mainframes. Data center is not going to go away, but will be treated as an expense that you minimize and quarantine. That's what, like, I was Synoptics in 1985, right? And like, we quarantined mainframes and you just capped it. No more investment. You did a lot of SNA internetworking, right? That's what will happen. We will interface to the data center. It will look like an important node in the cloud. But that's it, not the center of gravity. So
I think the writing's on the wall.
The writing is more than on the wall. Yeah, it's happening. Yeah. So hey, this has been great. We could probably go on for hours, and
we could
have a lot of conversation. Do you guys terraform? Last question.
We're starting to. We're
Yep.
starting to. Yep.
Okay. That's another change, right? In terms of modern networking, right? Not 1994 boxes networking, but
Yep,
infrastructure
right.
as code. Everything is either, you know, we've got APIs that you use something like Terraform that you're going to go infrastructure as code, and that's how you roll out. So literally when you want to roll out to a different cloud, you push a button.
I know it. I know
Great.
it. And that's so
And
exciting.
Yeah.
And if you need to tear something down, push a button. You need to bring it
Yeah.
back up, push another button.
Yeah.
You know, or you just make it automated and it does it on its own.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. So any last comments? And then Dimitri.
No, I just, again, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate all the things that you guys have done for myself and my team and my company. You know, really, I don't believe we would be where we're at today if it wasn't for Aviatrix bridging the gap. And, you know, I look forward to the future. And, you know, I follow you guys quite a bit, and I watch a lot of videos and podcasts and things that you guys are doing, and I find it interesting. And I still find it interesting, even though after, like you said, I did go to Seattle and got to sit with Sod and Nicholas and do the whole professional track.
Wow,
And,
that was one of the last ACE trainings live.
Yeah, COVID broke out down the street. We were all freaking out.
Okay.
But we learned a lot, and you know, Sod and his team didn't really let us down easy, man. They're tough.
Oh, it's a tough. Yeah, Jeff
course.
talking about that. You're talking about the ACE training.
Yes.
It was designed and delivered by our Green Beret solution architects. These guys know Cisco, they know VMware, and they know all clouds now. They're unique in the industry, and they give the class.
Yeah, and
So
it was great. And we're going to actually be training a lot of guys at work. I have a training schedule put together and that includes associate and professional Aviatrix training for all my security and network engineers.
And don't
you
forget,
know, it's again, you know, when you can install a platform, deploy a platform that's reusable, and you know, if I leave Republic, somebody can, you know, step right into my shoes and take the controls and fly the plane. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
that's a great comment. Yeah. Great.
So,
all right. Well, good. Again, we could go on for hours.
I know we could.
Hours is fun. All right, Dimitri, you want to wrap up or Vicky?
Yep. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks so much.
Steve.
We do have one question, Steve. If you don't mind addressing that, that'd be great. At the bottom there.
Oh, okay. Does FlightPath provide granularity on VPN-related troubleshooting between on-prem and cloud provider? I don't believe you can have I don't believe that FlightPath works across to on-prem. I think it's within the cloud. I could be wrong. I don't know. Jeff, do you know that?
Yeah, I think your FlightPath, when you run FlightPath, it is definitely cloud internal. When you go to on-prem, it's going to end at the end of your connection to on-prem. Yeah, you're not going to be able to integrate on-prem devices in that FlightPath. No.
All right, Dimitri.
All right, and one note, Jeff. There's a note in a section from one of your colleagues and friends from LJ Jernstad. He says, Jeff, tell Glenn Stockert, thanks for hooking us up with Aviatrix. We are doing our POC now, and we are sold. We are working with Phil and Matt as well. So welcome a new customer. And Jeff, thanks for being a supporter for us. You're always welcome on our marketing team.
Yeah. So
put your hat on, Jeff, you didn't put your hat on at the beginning, did you?
Oh yeah. So I can wear it for a little bit.
There you go. Your Roaring 20s hat, right?
Yeah. Top of the morning.
Waiting for that. When COVID stops, world's going to go crazy. You can put your Roaring 20s hat on. Yeah.
Roaring 20s again.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks to everyone who attended and listened to this podcast. Thank you again, Jeff, Steve. Stay tuned for episode number 5 coming soon next month. Yep. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.
You guys have a good day. See you guys.
See you, Jeff. Bye-bye.
Bye.